Hi everyone, my name is Maddie, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my October book haul. So if you've been watching my videos for a while and you have seen specifically my September book haul, you'll know I didn't buy too many books in September. I was really good, I didn't buy too many, but I did know that I'd be buying a lot in October. I had a lot already on order, I had a lot of books coming out that I really wanted to get, and that definitely held true. I think I have 20 books here. I may be wrong, it could be one more or one less or something like that. I've kind of lost track, but also it's difficult to count because the actual number of books is maybe that many, but I have multiple editions of some because I have no self-control, so there's quite a lot to talk through. So I'm definitely not going to make this intro too long. I have a huge variety of books. I have books from book boxes, I have books I bought myself, I have books that friends really kindly sent me, all sorts of things which I have for all sorts of reasons, so we may as well just get straight into it and start running through the books I got this month. So the very first book I'm going to talk about is a book that I actually read before this month. I read it in like August or something, I think, and I do have a full video review of it, and that is The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow if you want to watch my review. And this is one of my favourite books that I've read this year. I love Alex E. Harrow's writing so much, so I was highly anticipating this book. I was lucky enough to read an arc of it. So, of course, once it was released, I got myself a copy. I got the US hardback because it has deckled edges. These tabs aren't actually mine, they're my mum's because she read it and she needs to move the tabs into her own edition now it's arrived. It is beyond stunning. I love the cover. I love Under the Dust jacket, just to show you. I love when they have this like double binding, and I think it's pretty standard for a US hardback, but I love it and I find it really novel because it's definitely not a thing in the UK. But the biggest thing for me is definitely the deckled edges. I love deckled edges so much, so I was thrilled to get this. But it gets better. Some of you may know that I kind of collect editions of books. I mean, you can just see here my Erin Morgenstern collection. I own too many copies of books I love. And an edition of The Once and Future Witches that I wanted more than anything in the world was the ARC, preferably the UK ARC. But I had given up on this hope so long ago. I requested it from the publisher and never heard back. Everyone is trying to get their hands on this ARC, and I was just like, I'm going to accept it's not a copy I'm going to get. And then I still can't believe this happened. One of my friends, Justine from I Should Read That, who will absolutely be linked below because she is my favourite human on the planet right now, she had a UK arc of it and she DNF'd the book. So I said to her, if you decide you don't want to keep it, please let me know and see if we can work something out. And she is the best human on the planet. And instead, she just sent it to me, and I have the UK arc, and I cannot believe this. I gave up on the hope of getting this edition of this book months and months and months ago now. I really just didn't think it was even remotely a possibility. So the fact I have this to go with my Alex Harrow collection is beyond insane to me, and I cannot say thank you enough to Justine for sending this to me. It means the world. I'm going to pay you back someday, somehow. I don't know how, but I'm going to find a way because this is the most phenomenal thing and I can't get over it. To anyone that doesn't collect books, this may not mean much because it's, you know, it's a paperback copy, but to someone like me who collects books, I don't do first editions and stuff, but I like having multiple editions of books I love. Getting something like that and having it just to keep and to read in future just means the absolute world. So thank you so much to Justine, and I'm now going to put these back behind me on my shelf where there's a big gap because I don't like the gap, and these need to go back where they belong. Just to give a very quick synopsis of this book, this follows three sisters who are all descended from witches and are basically trying to rediscover their powers and the possibility of being witches. And it's set in like an alternate history, set in a place called New Salem, sort of following on from Salem with the witch trials, and it's following like a suffragette movement in America, so it's extremely feminist, this LGBT rep, it's just generally phenomenal. The writing is beyond beautiful. I love Alex E. Harrow, so I would highly recommend you check this one out. And as I said, if you want to get my full thoughts on it, I do have a whole review video which will be linked down below. So while we are talking about books that I have multiple editions of and books that I collect, I guess the next book I'm going to have to talk about is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. But before I get into this, I do just want to say I am someone that collects books. I've mentioned that, and I specifically collect editions of books I either think I'm going to love or know I love. And I realise I'm in a really lucky position that I can afford to get multiple editions of books that I want to just because I think they're pretty. I realise a lot of people are not in this situation, and I do think it's also worth very quickly noting that it in no way matters if you have 10 editions of a book or one edition of a book, or you literally just borrow it from the library and don't own any books for yourself. It makes no difference. But I personally like having bookshelves with lots of editions on them. It is something that brings me a lot of joy. I just love looking at them. I love having them in my room. So if any of you do happen to have a problem with people who get 5 editions of books, I would suggest skipping this next book I'm going to talk about and moving right on, but I am going to talk about them because I love them and it makes me happy, and you can all think whatever you want about it, but it's a thing I like to do. So The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. The easiest way to start this is to hold this up. This is the situation we're in. Basically, I have no self-control, and every edition of this book that was announced I thought looked stunning, and I thought, I was kind of wrong, but I don't mind, I thought this was going to be an absolute new favourite book of all time, and therefore, like my Night Circus and Starless Seas, I would want to collect all the editions. But I also knew that a lot of these editions would sell out in pre-orders, so I didn't want to risk waiting for my book to arrive, reading it, loving it, and then never being able to get hold of the editions without either paying an absolute premium or spending years trying to trade. So my logic was just buy them now, and fingers crossed I love the book. I did really like the book. It's not an all-time favourite. I've talked about this in my wrap-up, but I am going to reread it because I think I will like it more on reread. I'm still glad I have all the editions, but let's very quickly run through what editions I have. So the first is the standard UK hardback. It has blue edges, it has copper foiling, and this is the design under the dust jacket. So that is what that one looks like. I do like this. I love the copper, but I'm not as big on the like navy blue base of the book. It's not my favourite design element, but it's all right. It's not my favourite, but I wanted to get a standard edition so that I could read it, because I worry sometimes about reading special editions, especially with sprayed edges, because it can disrupt the edges. So I wanted a standard edition to read, and that is the one that I read, hence why it has tabs in it. I then have the Forbidden Planet edition, which is another UK hardback. Again, blue edges, but it's black and blue foiling. And then under the dust jacket, we have that design, which I absolutely adore. This is possibly one of my favourite designs, it's just so cohesive with the blue flowers, the blue foiling and the blue edges. I just think it has a really, really nice vibe to it. I'm also loving that the UK hardbacks are so like short and fat. I just think they're really cute hardback sizes. So that's probably one of my favourite editions. Next, I have the Waterstones exclusive edition, which is a black base with gold foiling, and then under the dust jacket, it is like this. So again, really beautiful, really cohesive, but my favourite part about this one is the gold sprayed edges. I have never owned a book with reflective sprayed edges, and I'm kind of obsessed with it. It's really, really pretty, and I'm glad I got this because this sold out like no tomorrow, so very, very glad that I did pre-order this one just in case. And then the final one I have is the American hardback. I wasn't actually sure if I was going to buy this edition or not. I personally love the cover, but I wasn't sure if I would get it. But the reason I did is because V. Schwab actually did a book tour for this book, and the price of a ticket was to purchase a book. So I purchased a book from a US bookstore, they sent it to me, and I got to watch the live event with her and Madeline Miller. So this was kind of from there, but you also get this gorgeous piece of art that comes with it, so I am in no way complaining about owning that because it's stunning. So yeah, those are my editions of Addie LaRue. I love them. I think they look amazing on my shelves. I am so glad I have them. I will very quickly give you a synopsis for the book, but only a really brief one because I don't want to spoil it for anyone. This follows a girl who makes a deal with the devil, and this deal results in that no one will ever remember her, but she will live forever. And so 300 years later, she is still dealing with this, not being remembered by anyone, just moving through the world, until all of a sudden one day someone says they remember her, and they remember her name. And a lot goes on from there. I really enjoyed it. It's definitely a very introspective book, and one that I need to reread with a different lens on it. But I definitely enjoyed it, so highly recommend it. So moving on from books where I've bought multiple editions, because I don't need to expose myself even more, I'm going to go on to a couple of kind of almost special editions, or at least they're editions I specifically wanted to get. The first being Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This I didn't actually specifically want, but I am an Illumicrate subscriber. I subscribed to Illumicrate to get their Addie LaRue box, and it required me being subscribed a month early just because of when I got off the waitlist. So I got A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This is the beginning of a new trilogy, I think, called The Scholarmance. I've heard a lot of people enjoying it. I've also heard some controversy surrounding it. I'm not really sure whether I'll read it or what I'll think about it because I've never actually read Naomi Novik. She's not been an author who's hugely appealed to me in the past, so I may or may not read it, but I have it. I quite like the edition. I do really like the dark blue sprayed edges. They're pretty, but it's one I have, and I don't know what this is about. I think it's like a fantastical dark academia, maybe? Look for other people to talk about this book because I certainly know less than a lot of people. And now a very different kind of book I wanted a special edition of was the sequel to Frostheart, Frostheart Escape from Aurora. I haven't actually read Frostheart yet, I just have it here, and I got it last year and I think it's stunning. I'm actually obsessed with it, it's so beautiful. And the reason I wanted to get this one is I do have the Waterstones exclusive edition with the sprayed edges of the first book, and I wanted the same for the second book, so they match when I read them finally, because I am expecting to absolutely love them. So I did get this before having read the first one because I was concerned that the Waterstones edition would stop being sold and I wouldn't be able to get hold of a copy. So I got that. I love it, it's beautiful, it's a middle grade, kind of, I get the impression similar to Avatar The Last Airbender kind of series, which I haven't actually watched much of Avatar The Last Airbender, I need to, but definitely seems something I'd be interested in, and I know a lot of people like Gavin at Gavin Hetherington obviously loves it, and Katie from Katie Brightness Reads loves it, so I'm very optimistic, but I needed to get the edition with the sprayed edges, so I did. And then actually another middle grade book, I got the third book in the Nevermore series, which is Hollowpox, and this is by Jessica Townsend. I have really enjoyed the first two books in this series, Nevermore and Wondersmith. I really enjoyed them when I read them like 2 years ago now. And so I'm definitely going to continue with the series, but I of course had to get the UK hardback because look at this. This whole series have this under the dust jacket, or like a different design, but this idea with the foiling, and I am so obsessed with them. It's actually ridiculous. Like, that is the most beautiful thing. So of course I had to get the hardback, even though I'm not sure when I'll read this. I may wait for more books in the series to be out before reading them, or I might just read it now. But I needed this edition nonetheless. And then the final book where I sort of went seeking kind of a specific edition was Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. This is actually the standard US hardback, but I did order it from Illumicrate so that I got some sort of like extra merch with it. So the Illumicrate edition came with a few things. It came with a signed book plate. It came with this stunning wood mark, which I am actually obsessed with. It's one of my new favourite bookmarks. I love it so much. It came with this pin, and then on top of that, it had an author letter with it. So I'm really glad to have got this edition. I'm so excited for this book. I'm actually currently reading it and loving it. And this is the FAES and Gaze October read, so by the time you're seeing this, I think the live show will be in just a couple of days, so definitely check that out if you've read it or just want to get our thoughts on it. So I'm really glad to have this. I specifically want this edition just to kind of get the merch, and also it just supports the author. Aidan Thomas is a debut author and they deserve all of the support in the world, and they've done so well, so I'm really glad to have supported that. But actually very quickly on top of that, I did also enter the pre-order campaign for this book, which is a thing Aidan Thomas was running themselves, and they would send out pre-order goodies to everyone who pre-ordered the book and provided evidence. So I got that, and that came with another signed book plate and then these character cards, which I am obsessed with. They are stunning. But that was completely organised by the author themselves, and honestly I am amazed that they did it. It's such a huge job. I don't think they expected it to be such a big job, but I'm very glad to have it as I am loving the book. And again, I just want to support the author as much as I can. But just for a quick synopsis, this does follow Yadriel, and he is trying to prove to his family that he is a boy, that he is a brujo, and by doing so he is trying to basically get the magic of a brujo instead of a bruja, and in doing so kind of unintentionally accidentally summons himself a ghost who is the school bad boy. And they kind of got a bit of an adventure together, and it's so much fun. It deals with so many things and it's so gorgeous. Highly recommend, so good. I'm loving it, everyone's loving it, and for good reason. So with all the sort of special editions out the way, I'm just going to run through the rest of the books that I got, and the first of those is The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. This is the November FAES and Gaze book club pick, so of course I had to buy it ready to read it this month. And I don't actually know much about this. I think it has female-female rep, which is why we're reading it for an LGBT fantasy book club. I think this follows a girl who is descended from a bone shard, some bone shard magic or something, and she doesn't really have memories of her childhood, and she's trying to work out where everything fits together and sort of come to claim her throne. And then I think some sort of revolution comes into being, and she has to decide whether to wield magic, which is really like detrimental to her life, or save her country or whatever. I don't know exactly, but it sounds really interesting. Adult high fantasy. I know Katie and Ro have both read this and are loving it like no tomorrow, so I am so excited. I cannot wait to get to this one. I will be reading it in the next few weeks. So that is one of the ones I got. Next, sticking with the fantasy theme, I got Blaze Wrath Games by Amparo Ortiz. I am so excited for this as well. This is an YA fantasy Latinx How to Train Your Dragon is the kind of synopsis I've heard from people. I heard How to Train Your Dragon and I was sold, no question. I again will be reading this month hopefully, and it is so beautiful. I don't know why, this colour scheme with the dragons, I am so obsessed with it. I've heard, again, amazing things about this. I can't work out if it's standalone or beginning a series, but either way I'm happy. And it is just, I'm so excited. As I said, anything with dragons, and it says games, so there's a game in it, which is the thing I love. So dragons and probably a competition. my perfect book, honestly, so I'm beyond excited to get to this one. And this is also a new release, so again, want to support the author quite near the beginning of the release of their book, especially with the world as it is at the moment. Another fantasy book I got is Over the Woodward Wall by A. Deborah Barker, aka Shauna Maguire. This is a kind of spin-off to Middle Game, which is one of my favourite books by her. In Middle Game, there are little excerpts from this story called Over the Woodward Wall, which I assumed was a real children's story, and it wasn't. But now it is. Shauna Maguire wrote it under the pen name of the author in the book. And this is actually, I think, the start of a quartet, which is so exciting because it's a little novella like a lot of her books. So I am beyond excited to read this. I mean, the fact that when I read Middle Game, I looked up what this book was and how to read it shows how much I wanted to, even from small excerpts. So it just makes it even more exciting now the thing actually exists. And I think this follows two children who find this magical wall and kind of go into a magical land. And they're both exceptional children, but exceptional in very different ways, which very much parallels the story of Middle Game. So I am so here for this, so excited. Again, stunning. Just that colour scheme I'm obsessed with, and it like the spark. I love it so much. The next two books I'm going to talk about together really quickly, which are Before the Coffee Gets Cold and Before the Coffee Gets Cold Tales from the Cafe, as these are companion novels. So Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi is an adult kind of psychological light sci-fi fantasy, I think, which follows the premise of you can go to this cafe and you'll get served a coffee and you can then time travel back in time and do whatever you want as long as you return to your table by the time the coffee gets cold. I think. Maybe. I'm not completely sure, and everyone says it's amazing, everyone says it makes them cry. I'm so intrigued. It's a 5-star prediction for me, and yeah, I couldn't resist getting it. And I know this is a really petty thing, it has French flaps. I love that it has French flaps. And then I thought, as I was in Waterstones and they had a signed copy, I may as well pick up the companion, and I think this is kind of short stories from the cafe / kind of a sequel. I've not heard as good things about this one, but I feel like I may as well read it, like both of them, for completion. So I thought I'd get it. And then the final sort of fantasy book I got was Saga Volume 3. I'm gradually working my way through these Saga comics. I read this last month and really enjoyed it, so I had to carry on. This is the next volume and I'm excited about it. I'm really excited to get to it. For anyone who doesn't know, Saga follows these two people from warring races on warring planets who have got together, got married and had a child, and they're now trying to escape both planets and so much else. And the amount of political intrigue and stuff going on in such a short little thing is phenomenal. I cannot get over how much detail is packed into these, but I am loving it so much and so excited to continue with this series. And then another book I got, a bit different, we're moving away from fantasy now, is This Winter by Alice Oseman. This is a little novella following Nick and Charlie from the Heartstopper comics. I have actually already read this on ebook earlier in the year, but it now got a paperback release which matches all the rest of her books in their gorgeous, stunning matching editions, which I love so much. And it's signed, so I thought I would order it from Waterstones to kind of complete my Alice Oseman collection, as I do own all of her books in these editions. So yeah, it's just a little Christmas story following the two main characters from Heartstopper, Nick and Charlie, and it's sweet. It's a really sweet little story, and I think she has also updated it for this release, and the ebook has also been updated because she wrote it quite a few years ago and there were certain things she wasn't happy with that she'd written, so I appreciate that she went back and looked at it again and updated it a little bit. And then the final 6 books I have to talk about are these, and I'm literally going to run through each of these with one-line synopses because I do actually have a whole video talking about these books, which is when I did a 7 books in 7 days challenge, so I will link that up there and down below. And also in my wrap-up I do talk about all of these again, so to save talking about them in detail a 3rd time, I'm going to do a one-line synopsis for each and then a very brief do I recommend them or not. So the first is Zenny by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This is a marriage of convenience, LGBT, cute and hard-hitting romance with a really phenomenal relationship that's actually built on trust and understanding. Highly recommend. Then Well Met by Jen DeLuca, which is a sort of hate-to-love fake dating book set at a Renaissance fair, which also features a really lovely familial relationship, and I wouldn't recommend it that much, but I'm the odd one out, so check other people's reviews before deciding. Next is The Flat Share, which is a phenomenal kind of there was only one bed trope romance, which is gorgeous and so intense and deals with some really hard-hitting things, such as toxic relationships and abuse, and dealing with that and going forward from that, with the most adorable protagonists who are both very real people And in case you couldn't tell, I highly recommend this one, and bonus points because it's set in London and I'm a bit obsessed with London. Next is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This is another hate to love romance, which is hilarious. It's got so much banter, it really forces people into a good situation and gets really cute at the end. So again, very much recommend this one. And this follows two people forced to go on a tropical vacation together when they hate each other, and I'm sure you can guess where it goes. Next is The Bromance Book Club by Lyssa Kay Adams, and this follows a man whose wife is unhappy and they're looking to get a divorce, and so he joins a book club to read romance novels and then use the information gathered from that to do what she wants. I personally was not a fan and do not really recommend it, but again, most people seem to enjoy it, so check out other people's reviews before deciding if you want to pick it up. And then finally is Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This is another British as hell romance story, which is fake dating and handled beautifully, and it is about a boy whose father is a really famous musician, and so he's always in the limelight and getting bad press, so he gets a really straight-laced guy to be his fake boyfriend, and I'm sure you can imagine how fake dating with a really straight-laced kind of follow the rules person goes. Lots of funny moments, really well done, deals with a lot of heavier topics as well, and overall I would definitely recommend this one. So I think that is the astronomical number of books that I got in October. I don't know if I even want to try and lift this stack up, because honestly it's going to end so badly, but I might give it a go in a second. So this is the stack minus the V.E. Schwab's and Alex E. Harrow's. So I'm just, that's enough. That's enough of that stack. You get the picture from that. I bought too many books, I know. But I will say that a lot of these I've either already read, plan to read very soon, or they're a continuation of a series I know I love, so I don't feel at all bad about buying them. And also, I kind of feel like when I'm coming out of a reading slump, which I am right now, tends to be when I buy quite a lot of books, because all of a sudden I get that excitement for reading again. But I don't always want to read the books that have been sitting on my shelves for months and months staring at me whilst I'm feeling like not reading, because they just feel too intimidating. So sometimes getting some new ones to kind of spice up my shelves and spice up the TBR really helps me get back into reading, so I'm going to blame it on the slump instead of me, because I don't want to take responsibility for how many books I bought. But that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know, did you buy lots of books this month? Were you good? Is anyone else planning on possibly going on a book buying ban before Christmas? Because I'm kind of starting to consider it, but I also know I would never do it because I don't have the self-control. Either way, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to see more content from me. All of the book clubs I host, read-alongs I'm doing, social medias, and links to all of these books will be linked down in the description if you want to check that out. But that is it for this video, so bye, and I'll see you in the next one.